The Summit for Research, to me, is the true definition of meeting of the minds.
The Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation saw this gap. I would see that there were all these different threads of people who were working on very specific elements, but no one was bringing it all together.
In terms of suicide prevention, this is an issue where we really need all hands on deck. We really need to push the envelope when it comes to innovation and collaboration.
Gathering foundations, big and small, that have contact with folks out in the community, that have relationships around the country, I think is exactly what needs to happen.
To me, the 2025 Summit for Research is a collaboration of different areas, whether it's researchers, foundations, that are coming together to improve ultimately and make a larger impact faster in the world of mental health.
The gap was not just that foundations weren't necessarily talking to researchers, but oftentimes that researchers weren't talking to each other.
Having those intersections where people can really talk about, here's what I'm looking at, what do you think? So the ultimate collaboration is something that not only is funding available for and is pushing forward, but those funding resources are excited.
With something like suicide, there is no one solution. It's actually going to be a combination of strategies that everyone's a piece of. And so what that means is we have to come together and we have to have a dialogue and start sharing ideas.
To me, the summit acts as a great opportunity to get into a room with a lot of people who are very intelligent. Having everybody in one place is such a brilliant idea.
The answers to the questions about why and getting access to resources and partners to start to answer that question can absolutely happen here, which is fantastic.
Not one of us can solve this issue alone. We really need to be pooling our resources, really learning what's working in other communities.
When we talk about suicide, it's so general. Everyone has data that they can look at. That's never been an issue. How we read that data, how we bring that data to life, how we implement changes so that we can figure out what levers are pulling this data, and so we know which levers to pull in real life, that matters.
Being able to sit with experts in the field, with foundations in the field, and talk to one another and have these real personal, in-depth conversations is like something I've never experienced at a conference before.
And so we've kind of looked at this from a broader community perspective, instead of only looking at this as a mental health clinician-driven solution. All of us play a role in it, but it does require us to behave and act in different ways.
I see the social problem as a multifaceted, very complex problem. Each of us, foundation has its own strengths, researchers has its own strengths, and only by putting it together can we achieve something bigger.
As a part of being in the military, I deployed to Iraq in 2009, and that was a very transformative experience for me because, when people killed themselves downrange, they were brought to our hospital so we could care for their bodies to transport them home. And it was the first time I'd, ever confronted the kind of brutal reality of suicide.
I had friends of friends pass away from suicide, and it didn't quite hit home the exact same way as my brother passing away. And I had anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and I think that him passing allowed me to live because it may have been me.
Everything that we do here at the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation has to start with research. Our goal to ultimately drive down suicide rates can only happen if we have the tools and the expertise in place in order to make these things change. M2G's MHI brings a different approach to this work, not only thinking about pharmaceutical interventions and how we can partner with universities for direct treatment, but also about how we can begin to think about a holistic approach to these communities of care.
We have known Tom and Ellen Harris for the last 7 years. When I came to this space and Susan and I were looking for a place to start collaborating, we went to Ellen as, what do we do with this passion that we have now been gifted. And so ultimately, Tom and Ellen's idea around having a summit where researchers and foundations can come together, we're really excited to see how we could help contribute to the summit to make it the best that it can be.
This summit has been about supporting, building, bringing together, tearing down silos, and now we have something amazing that we can continue to build on.
There is really a whole community of researchers and foundations. We are working together, and that passion make me feel really, really hopeful and make me feel like I'm not alone.
We are here to collaborate with these researchers, but also to build them up, to support them, so when they go back to do their daily work and their hard work, they know that there is a loud community here in Fort Worth that's really cheering for them and pushing them forward.